Hi, Gib. How are you doing? As you can see and hear me, hopefully we'll get a few other people. Were you able to share that link? Was there anybody else on? Anybody else? Yeah, I totally get it. Was there anybody else logged in on GoTo Webinar as well? All right. Well, let's go ahead and get things going. And feel free to type into the chat as much as you need if you have comments or questions. I'll be watching that throughout the course of the session today. And this is YouTube Live is a nice way for us to be able to hold this session and be able to interact with each other as well. Is a little bit different format than GoTo Webinar. Excuse me. The chat is there's no private messages that you can send to me. Everything that you put into the chat, everybody else that will log in and access the stream will also be able to see it. But I think that's also a really nice way to be able to keep the participation and discussion going. So if you have a comment or a question as we move into the rest of the session, please feel free to put it there, and we will keep tabs and address questions and comments as they come in. Before we do anything else, I do want to talk about the elephant in the room, and that is you should have seen a note on the ITG website earlier today that we are moving everything over to Discord. And so I want to talk about that for a minute. Both Jesse and I have put together some video content on our respective Discord servers about how to use that service. But this is something we're doing to try to make it a little bit easier on everybody to be able to get to content for both Rebel Income and Traders Pro. And in all honesty, to simplify some of our operations as well. And so we're really excited about Discord. It's a little bit different format. It certainly looks a little bit different, but let me just go over a couple of basic things as we get this rolling. Once you join, then I'll get an alert here. For example, here's Barry. He just came in, and go ahead and reload this really quickly. And once I see you're in, then I'll go ahead and give you access to everything on the Rebel Income server. And so the first place to start, of course, if you like, you can go ahead and go here under Home to Rebel Income. You'll see kind of a summary of what it is. I've put my FAQs here in the FAQs channel. There's also some rules here about Rebel Income and Discord in general. All of the really critical content is going to be visible under Rebel Income System. If you ever need to just review Rebel Income and the different pieces of the system that I've put together in creating this system, you go to Getting Started and you'll see the complete Getting Started video library is listed there. So you can review that material. Each of these videos are about 10 to 15 minutes a piece, just to give you a way to get through all of the different pieces of the Rebel Income puzzle as easily as possible. Tuesday trade alerts will be right here under trade alerts. So you'll see that that on the left-hand side. And this is a little bit, again, this is a little bit different format. This isn't like a blog post like you've seen me doing on the ITG site. Instead, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to highlight all three of the possible income generating trades for the week. This week was on MGA. So, here's my put sell. That was income trade number one. Then I had the covered call, and then I listed the bull put spread. So they'll all be listed here. That doesn't mean that I'm shortchanging the analysis that I'm doing here. I do see you on Discord. In fact, let me just go ahead and point you out. You're right here. So I can see you. I can see you online as well, and everybody else. This doesn't mean that they're necessarily on the server, but they are on Discord. So, but they are online at least. All right. So you get all of the trade alerts. You can also open up the PDF that's attached to the bottom of every one of these alerts, and that'll be a PDF document where I give you the full rundown on the analysis for that week's trade. Let me pull this over to the right window. There we go. And this will give you the full rundown, similar to what I was posting on the ITG site. So that's how you can still get to all of the trade alert information. The recordings of each webinar each Friday, once they're done, I post these here. This live event is going to be the same thing. Once the session is over and we end it, I'll be able to post a link to this video. It'll be on YouTube as opposed to where we've been putting the GoTo Webinar sessions. But I'll post that link here as well. So you'll continue to be able to get to all of my previous webinars here in this particular channel. The Thursday articles that I like to try to provide a little bit more insight about Rebel Income and some of the different pieces of the Rebel Income system are all listed under articles. And again, these are all channels that you should be able to see and have immediate access to as soon as I give you the right role. The live webinar channel. This is where the registration link for GoTo Webinar is located. Depending on, this may change. We will see how things go in the next few weeks probably. But for now, we're going to continue, this week notwithstanding, we're going to continue to run things through GoTo Webinar. And so the link to register for that is listed here. There's a couple of other things that I wanted to point out here that I'm adding to the service that you have access to, just because it's kind of cool. And Discord gives me some additional flexibility that we really didn't have by just running everything through the ITG site. One of those is early access to all of the videos that I post on YouTube. I'm going to put them here in this channel first. When I create these videos, I will leave them as unlisted in YouTube, which means that the only way anybody can get to them is if they have the link. Well, I'm going to share the link with you here before I ever publish these videos on YouTube. Try to do at least one, sometimes two videos a week on YouTube. and so you'll have early access before anybody else to all of that content. Let's see who else just came in. All right, looks like we've got a couple of other people, so that's good. The other thing that I want to point out, this is new, and if you were previously subscribed to the Investive Daily articles that I used to write on a daily basis, this is similar to that, but under reports, I'm now taking the same kind of analysis that I do for Rebel Income, and I'm writing a report 3 times a week, usually Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning, and I'm posting them here. This is these are often stocks that I have in my watch list, so they're going to be some of the things that you're seeing that I'm placing trades on, for example. But beyond that, there's a lot of other stocks that will come across my desk and that I'll use for posting here. And a similar kind of thing. I'll just give you the headline here, and then you can click and open the document by just clicking the link, and then you'll have it here. And this is a full, a more detailed description of the company, some of the conditions in the marketplace right now, and then a complete fundamental and technical profile of what is going on with that particular stock, and my summary on what I think about it. So you'll get you have access to that as well for free, just as part of what you've already paid for the ITG service. So the point here is not necessarily to we're not trying to change anything in terms of what you have access to. We are changing the way to get to that information, and trying to actually expand some of the things that we can make available to you. In the same way, if you haven't already joined Jesse's Discord server, you can use the invite here on the moving to Discord announcement. Here's the link to my server, and this one's mine, and this one's Jesse's. So you can use that link to get to Jesse's server as well. Once you've joined that server, then you'll be able to switch between us as pretty much however you want. Jesse's server is right here on the left-hand side. You see Traders Pro. And so if I click on this, then I get access to everything that Jesse makes available through this server, and all of the members that he has online as well. Some of you may have already joined this, and that's awesome. If you haven't already, I certainly encourage you to do so. The Traders Pro system is a little bit different than what we do with Rebel Income, of course, but he posts new trades just about every single day on this, and gives you a good summary of exactly what all of those look like at any given time. So let's go ahead and scroll down here. For example, here's the latest today. It's got adding to the portfolio, APP, removing none, stop loss updates, none. So he'll post new trades here using the Traders Pro system every day. So we're giving you access to both of these servers, and trying to just make it easier to be able to switch to one or the other, and that way you can use you get more information to work with to decide what you want to do with your own investments. Okay. Any questions about anything that I've talked about in terms of this switch over from ITG to Discord that I can answer for you? Just go ahead and put it in the chat. All right. Now, if you do, feel free to just go ahead and post them there in the chat. I'll see them and we'll get to them as we can. As always, it is Expiration Friday. That means there's opportunities to evaluate the positions that we've been working with and that I've been posting. Now, it is August 30th. That means that I don't have any currently open positions that I need to think about in terms of having them ready for expiry today. Well, let me take that back. There is one. We have a covered call on Barrick Gold. Again, what button do I need to click to see your program on Discord? If you're talking about my server, Gib, then it's just this green one here. You hover over it, you see it'll be called Rebel Income. So here's Jesse's. I just click on his. This one's mine. This is the green one, and then you have all of my channels on the left-hand side. Mine looks a little bit different than yours just because I am the manager, the admin of the server. And so I've got a few things that you don't. But basically everything from home all the way down to the home study kit. Oh, and really quickly, I have placed the home study kit here down at the bottom. You'll be able to, I need to create some links here. But for example, the Trade for All Seasons ebook, I'm going to list here. The videos for the home study kit that I've always made available through the ITG site can also be accessed here as well. Okay. So Barrick Gold, as I mentioned, this is a stock that I've held for a little while. I was assigned it. I bought my shares from a put sell assignment at $20.50, and have held it since then, and been able to enjoy some nice dividends from it. But the stock has really not done a lot since then. And so earlier this month, I had an opportunity to sell a new covered call with the same strike price that I bought it at, which was $20.50. I brought in 40 cents on the trade for 10 days, about 2% in terms of income, which was actually really nice. So let's take a look at where the stock is now and see what that means in terms of what is likely to happen. Here's gold right here. And we can see that it's coming off of a peak a little bit above 2050 from the end of last week. It's dropped back, and now we're starting to see it consolidate right around 20. So it could still push above 2050 before the close of business today. In fact, it came near to it earlier today, although the high for the day is only at 2032. So it could still push above that, but it looks like, all things being equal, this covered call is probably going to expire worthless. That means I'm going to hold the position for a little bit longer, which is perfectly okay. I've got no problem with that. The stock is declaring its dividend today for the most current quarter at 10 cents, and so that's useful. That means that I'll be able to get that, and you'll see that I'll see that come into my account on the 16th of September. And in the meantime, I'll hold the stock for a little longer. If it continues to stabilize around this level, then that should offer up another opportunity, possibly as soon as next Tuesday when I post my next set of trades. Be another opportunity for another covered call with Barrick Gold. And it's certainly been gratifying to see the way that it's rebounded over the past 8 months, as precious metals have also seen an increase, as kind of a normal movement when it comes to the relationship of precious metals to economic conditions. As interest rates have been rising, that's created more value for precious metal stocks. and that's been a positive thing. So we'll see where this goes, but for now, I'm perfectly okay with hanging on to it for a little bit longer, assuming that this covered call expires, and go from there. So, all right, let's see. I'm going to need to log in here again. And if you heard that little chirp, that's a message from Jesse here on Discord. So he's working on GoTo Webinar. But in the meantime, we can go ahead and move forward. Let's take a look at some of the other stocks that we have some open positions in that are pending. Let's put sales in the next couple of weeks. There's nothing next week, but we do have a put sale on Bank of America that I placed last week. $38 strike price, brought in 72 cents on that one. So a little under 2% for about 23 days on this trade. And then after that, the next week, a couple of put sales, one on FMC and another one on MGA. So we'll see, take a look at these and see where they sit right now. Let's start with Bank of America. Let me just check in real quick with Jesse. Sorry about that. Don't want to expose any information here. All right. So here's Bank of America. As I mentioned, I have a put sale that expires in 2 weeks. So here's a current chain. Here's the next week. So we're out here. I sold, as I mentioned, the $38 strike price on this, and we're seeing the stock, of course, is a little bit above that point now. So price here, in fact, is a little bit above 40, which is really nice. That's given a nice boost from the price that I was selling. We're seeing the stock just following a nice little upward trend here. And starting to rally. So here's the strike price that I sold at 38. So this is looks like it's moving in good position. Now we're still 2 weeks to expiration, but with the stock that far above the strike price that I sold, it does open up the possibility of whether or not there may be maybe a reason or an opportunity to work with the trade a little bit differently. Now, again, keep in mind, I sold the option for 72 cents. Here we go. Sold it for 72 cents. And right now, I could buy it back for 12. Well, that's kind of interesting. That means that I could hang on to 60 cents of the overall premium that I brought in on the trade, and may be able to close out that possible obligation even sooner. If I'm worried that maybe the stock could retrace back down towards 38 or even drop below it in the next 2 weeks, maybe this is a really good reason to think about buying it back and seeing what else I can do with the same capital that I put in reserve for this trade. If I can keep 60 cents of that premium, divide that by 38, I'm still bringing in about 1.6% for a trade that I set 10 days ago. That's actually a really, really nice result. And at that point, I can decide if maybe I want to consider rolling up a little bit. I could go to well, let's see, 2 weeks out at 40, which is the closest out of the money option, bringing in about 59 cents, which is about just a little bit under 1.5%. So that's not terrible. If I wanted to go out a little bit further in time and stay at 40, I could still, here's a 73 at 40. So that's also pretty nice. I could think about doing that and maybe going out another 3 weeks in time. That's if you want to keep working with Bank of America, and maybe this is a functional way. This is one of the reasons that a lot of the rollers in our group like to do this, is because when the stock is following, a nice upward trend here, and you see it just kind of continuing to move higher along this trend line, the opportunity to buy these back at a fraction of what you were able to sell the options for when you initiated the trade is really attractive, and that's something that a lot of people will try to take advantage of as much as they can. All things being equal, I like the way that this momentum is moving. Looks like support for the stock should be right at around the 20-day moving average right now, which is right a little bit below 38.80, a little bit below 39. Excuse me. I'm just going to go ahead and call it 39 for sake of argument. So support is a little bit more than a little more than $1 away from the stock's current price. That's also $1 above the strike price that I sold, which should increase the likelihood that the stock is going to continue to stay above my $38 strike price for the next 2 weeks. Now, as always, of course, for Bank of America, by selling the put option, the $38 strike price is really attractive. And that means that if I'm assigned the stock at that price, I'm happy with that result. And I would be willing to go ahead and accept the assignment in that case. All right, that's Bank of America. Anybody, any other thoughts or questions about this one? Gib, are you working with? Do you have a trade on this stock as well? All right. Looking out to the next week after that, as I mentioned earlier, I have a couple of different put sales on FMC and this week's put sale on MGA. So we'll start with FMC. On this one, I sold the $60 strike price. Brought in. This one was a little bit outside of outside of the normal. Gibbs says he doesn't, so that's fine. I'm usually trying to stay within 30 days when I place these put selling trades as much as I can, so that I can try to leverage the opportunity to place as many trades as possible. That's one of the reasons a lot of rollers will like to buy these options back, of course, before expiration. Even though I do like to wait until expiration and let the stock's price do what it's going to do. If that means I get assigned, then so be it. I don't try to avoid those. Even so, I do like to try to work with the shortest expirations that I can. So as much as possible, I'm usually looking to be 30 days or less in terms of time. And on this one, I went to 37. Now, there are a couple of different reasons for that. And the first one is just practical. Unlike a lot of the stocks that we usually work with, FMC does not offer weekly options. So only the standard third Friday of every month expirations are the options that are available for this particular stock. When I placed this trade, that meant that the September week 3, the August week 3 was obviously not an option at this point, not practical anyway. There were just a few days to expiration, and the premiums weren't great considering the amount of time. And so that meant that really considering this stock as a practical put selling opportunity would require working with a little bit more time. Now, that was pretty easy to justify considering the fact that by selling the $60 strike price at the time, I was able to bring in about 3.5% of total income on this. So even if I do get assigned, this $2.10 that I brought in would actually lower my overall net cost basis to $34.90. This is assuming that I am assigned, which made this a really interesting trade. And the longer that I looked at it, the more it just seemed silly to really get too hung up on the fact that it was a trade that covered an extra week of time than what I normally do. So that's why I placed it. So let's take a look here again at FMC and see where things sit on this one. And just like with Bank of America, the market's momentum for the last week or so has really been a positive thing. Again, it's tracing right along its 20-day moving average right now, and is sitting right around 64.50, 1 penny below that right now. But that's, even though that doesn't look like a lot of volatility, a lot of movement, it's been enough to be able to put this $60 strike price put that I sold in a pretty solid position. And we can consider whether or not to continue to let this run, considering the amount of time still to expiration. I certainly don't mind doing that, but let's take a look just for the sake of argument. Again, rolling for a stock like this is not going to be as simple just because of the more extended time periods that you're looking at. But remember, I brought in $2.10 on this one. So let me pull up my calculator. I'll just put it over here on the side. I brought in $2.10, and right now, the $60 contract has a 55-cent ask, a 45-cent bid, which is a big difference from the amount that I was able to bring in when I placed the trade. Now, I only sold one contract on this, but at $60, that means that's $6,000 of my own capital that I either cash or margin, or a combination of both, that I need to keep in reserve for the duration of the trade. That's not terrible, but at the same time, considering the fact that the stock has already made a pretty healthy move away from that stock price, this does also mean that there's an opportunity to close this out and hang on to a healthy portion of that premium and get that $6,000 back, and think about redeploying it elsewhere. Maybe I don't use FMC again just because of the time to expiration right now. The next available contracts are 49 days out. And that's not necessarily a terrible thing, but again, I do want to try to maximize the advantage that trading frequency by working with shorter time periods gives me. And so maybe there's some other opportunities out there working with weekly options that are a little bit more attractive at this point. But the idea of buying this back, paying the 45 cents minus 45 means hanging on to $1.65 relative to the $60 that that was the strike price that I sold. That means I'm hanging on to 2.75%. This would be for a trade that I placed on the 14th of August. So really, I've only held this thing for 2 weeks, still 3 weeks to expiration, and I can still hang on to, the more than 75% of the premium that I brought in. That's really actually very, very, very nice and very attractive. So that's something to think about. Not a recommendation to buy or sell as always, but something to consider. And this is one of the nice things about put selling. When stock starts to develop a trend and starts to move in your favor, it starts to move upwards above the strike price that you sold. Then you get some more opportunities to do this, and the likelihood that you're going to be assigned in these trades is lessened. For some of our put sellers and some of the people that I know that like to use this strategy to generate income, that it increases the advantage, and that's something that in these kinds of trends they'll usually be able to really maximize their income by applying this more active trading approach, buying it back before expiration, deciding whether or not to work with the same stock, and if so, do they roll up to a different strike price or maybe go a little bit further out in time. And go that way. If the 49 days doesn't bother me, for example, in the case of FMC, there's still 220 to be had here at the $62.50 strike price. This is a stock that's about $64 right now and building a nice little upward trend. So 220 on 62.50 is pretty good. That's actually not terrible. Again, about 3.5% for, again, you're going out about 6 weeks in time in this case. So it is a little bit more time than normal, but this is still certainly within the threshold that I prefer to look for. I'm usually targeting about 1.5% on average per month in the trades that I'm trying to place. If I can get around that on an average basis, then I'm usually okay. If I can do 1.5% in 2 weeks, even better. But really, I'm trying to hit about that 1.5% per month mark on the capital that I commit to each one of the trades that I place. All right. Normally we close this off at about 11 o'clock, but considering how late we got started today, again, I apologize for the confusion about that. We're going to go ahead and extend this out a little bit further. That will hopefully offer the opportunity for those of you that are in the session today to go ahead and offer up some other stocks that maybe you would like to look at and maybe get a rundown on, either from me, maybe share some of your own thoughts and comments on it as well. The other put sell, as I mentioned, that is on deck is the one that I placed this week on Magna International, MGA. I kind of have a thing. I kind of have a little bit of a soft spot, I guess, for stocks that service the auto industry. I have an open position right now on Borg Warner, which is another stock in the same industry. They sell auto parts and components primarily to the big three automakers in the U.S. MGA is a Canadian company, does the similar kind of thing. They both also have a foothold in electric vehicles, which is I would expect to I would expect to continue to be a growth industry for these businesses as time continues. But with MGA, I sold the 42.50 strike price. Was able to bring in $1.15 on this one for about a 3-week trade. Now this was just on Tuesday, so we really haven't seen a lot of time pass. But let's see where that sits right now. Here's MGA. It's pulling back a little bit. Sitting now at about 41.54. So So we're right in this range right now. That does mean that the stock is below the strike price that I sold. I sold 42.50, and so remember when you sell a put option anytime, especially with American style options, which is pretty much always what we're working with this particular strategy, you're going to be looking at the possibility of being assigned anytime the stock is below the strike price that you sold. Now, that hasn't happened for me yet, and it may not. We'll see. I do expect the stock to have some pretty solid support right around the 20-day moving average, which is about 40.50. So draw this line out here. Here's 40.50. I think that should provide some pretty solid support for the stock. We obviously do have some immediate resistance right here at about 43, which is right about there. This could mean, depending on what the stock does here in the next several days and weeks, we could see this stock start to form kind of a consolidation range where it just kind of bounces between the top end here at 43 and support at 40.50. And that's okay. That wouldn't be the worst thing. If it closes above 42.50 by the time, in the next 3 weeks, when that option comes up, then that'll be all right. But even if I get assigned at 42.50 and the stock continues to stay in this trading range, that's still pretty attractive. And MGA is another one of these companies that is really very, very attractive at its current price. So a lot of people look at these downward trends and they really kind of get nervous and they really want to just stay away. And what they'll call these kinds of stocks are radioactive. I take a little bit different view, obviously, and the contrarian nature in me actually really likes to see these kinds of declines, because this is where some of these really, really good high value opportunities come. And if the stock does reverse trend, kind of like what FMC is doing right now, or what Bank of America has been doing now for quite a while, then that's wonderful. That makes it really easy to be a put seller in those cases. But even just consolidation ranges are really, really functional for the kinds of trades that I like to place. I'll take assignments during consolidation periods, and these are with really good companies. They usually pay nice dividends, and I'll take advantage of that consolidation period to have opportunities not only to take in the dividend, but also to sell additional covered calls and bring in even more income on that. So for now, really, in my view, there's no reason to change my viewpoint on this and see how things develop. The other part of this pattern that is really interesting to me, this is a pattern we've talked about in previous sessions, but we have this declining 200-day moving average that is about 50. We have the 20-day moving average that is been fluctuating a bit, has been coming down lately, but notice that more recently, not only is it flattened, but now it's even starting to bend upward just a little bit. That flattening is a really, really good potential setup, and that makes a good that provides a pretty good opportunity to start paying attention to the stock's price action. And if it develops what we like to call a hammer formation, and it could come down and do one of these. This is where most of the price activity happens, at the very low end of the day's activity, and then we see the wick kind of represents the difference between where it closed and where it started the day, where its high was, or even a hammer like this. The first one is usually considered, it's called a bearish hammer, but it could also look something like this. These can also be open or filled, either way. The technical interpretation either way of these hammers is really not too different, especially when they happen at the low end of a trading range like this. They usually imply that there is a shift in market sentiment and momentum that is beginning to take place. With these bearish hammers, it means that the stock had been dropping, then it found support right here at the bottom of this range and stabilized at this level. In the case of a bullish engulfing, which is a bullish hammer, which is a little bit more, a little bit of a stronger signal, to be quite honest, means that it found support at this level, but then rallied and then closed the day up in this range. So that's really interesting, and obviously this is not something I was waiting for when I placed this trade. But that is starting to develop that very nice technical pattern that we like to call, a bullish level 2. These are patterns that come at the extreme end of downward trends. Now, this is certainly not a guarantee that the downward trend is over or that it is ready to reverse. However, when we do see bearish trend reversals to the upside, back to bullish conditions, you will almost always see a bullish level 2 or even a bullish level 1 pattern appear. So these are excellent patterns to start to look for these kinds of early trend reversals with. Gibb says, sorry, let me just open up your comment. Not much open interest. Yes, that is one thing about Magna that you do have to contend with. And again, this is also something that you'll often see from stocks that don't offer weekly options. If they're only every month like this, open interest is going to be a little bit lighter. If I pull up the contract details here, here's 2 contracts have changed hands. 303 contracts in open interest. This is not terrible. In fact, this is pretty good, which usually implies that there should be enough activity to be able to provide some good liquidity for a trade if I wanted to work with this contract. But yes, if we go, for example, to the 60 for 2 weeks out, excuse me. Again, relatively low volume. Again, here's enough open interest. These aren't really high, but remember when you're looking for open interest, excuse me, if you get anything over 100 contracts in open interest, it's usually enough. There's enough to provide enough liquidity to be functional and to be able to place good trades with. A lot of people kind of will get hung up and try to see thousands of contracts in open interest, and the truth is it's really not necessary. You may not get an immediate move if something is 200, 300, 100 contracts in open interest, but there's still going to be enough liquidity for you to usually be able to manage these trades the way that you want, get the prices that you want, and be able to manage those effectively. All right. Well, that pretty much runs the gamut of the open trades that I have, open positions that I have on deck that are either expiring today, as in the case of the covered call on Barrick Gold, or some currently pending put sales. Gib, yeah, you were looking at MGA. I'm sorry, did I look at FF? Sorry, my contracts here were on FMC. I apologize. But you are also correct on MGA. So let me take a look on those. And let's get some updated numbers. Again, remember, we're still working with monthly options here. But this one, yeah, so there's 1,000 contracts there. So that's actually pretty nice. Coming up on a couple 3 weeks from expiration here. Here's 40 for 6 weeks out. Here's a little bit lower open interest and no volume so far. This doesn't mean that you won't be able to place trades when there's low open interest like this. In my experience, Gib, it very often may mean, not it does mean, but could mean that you may need to wait for a little bit to let the trade come to your price. And in these cases, I will usually probably monkey around with the difference between the bid and ask prices for a contract a little bit less. Let's just suppose, for the sake of argument, again, not a recommendation to buy or sell or anything along those lines, but suppose for a moment that I wanted to work with the $40 strike price for October week 3, which is giving a little over 2% of premium right now. That is interesting. Here's 95, here's $1. That's even with the relatively low open interest, that's a really nice range. There's not a lot of manipulation that's going on here. And so that means that there's really not a reason to try to go somewhere in between these levels. When you see a wider spread between the bid and the ask prices, and that usually means there's a little bit more in the way of manipulation that may be going on from market makers and from institutions on these trades. And so, that can complicate things. But in the case of MGA, even with the relatively low open interest, if you wanted, again, don't take this as a recommendation, but if the October week 3 options were of interest, being able to bring in a little over 2% for that time period, that may be enough. And this is for a stock that is $41.51, still $1.50 away from that strike price. There's not a lot of reason that you wouldn't be able to get 95 cents if that's what you were comfortable with. So the fact that there is relatively low open interest is another reason that maybe there isn't a little bit more premium than that to be had for the amount of time that's involved. And that's why some of the other people in our group, Ray may be an example of that. For example, he likes to try to look for 30% on an annualized basis, where I'm really only going for about 18. That's probably a reason why he would pass on a trade like this. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. Has this been helpful? Again, I apologize for the confusion in terms of being able to use the GoTo Webinar platform today. That created some additional confusion, obviously, so we had to shift gears. Next week we'll be back to GoTo Webinar, and we'll be back to normal operations on this webinar. So continue to use the registration link here. If you've already registered for this, you don't need to worry about it. You should get a notification for next week's webinar. The link for that next week's webinar would be the same as what we've been using just about every week since. So that should work without a problem. Barry, that's great news. I agree with you. This should have been a one-time event. I'm really just using YouTube Live as kind of a backup for now. And this was just a way to make sure that we could get into the session and still have it together, and not worry about waiting for GoTo Webinar to resolve itself. So, all right. Well, I do appreciate your participation as always in today's session, and appreciate your time. I hope that hope you have a great week. If anything comes up between now and then, between now and next Friday, please don't hesitate to let me know. You can always email me, thomas@investive.co, if you prefer. Probably the easiest way, considering the shift that we are making to the Discord server, the easiest way to get in touch with me really is just going to be through the questions channel. And you can go ahead and message me there, and I'll get an immediate notification for it, even before I get notified about an email. And I'll try to address those questions as they come. Very happy college football weekend. Roll Tide, man. And for me, let's go BYU. We've got it's going to be a fun season to watch as always. So thanks again. Have a great week, and we'll talk next time.